Welcome, everyone. Today we're doing something a bit special, a simple science summary, focused squarely on organic chemistry. This is really for you if you're, say, 17 or 18 here in South Africa, and you're getting ready for that big National Senior Certificate exam, the NSC, or maybe you're just curious about, what makes up the world around us. We've based this summary directly on the official stuff, the CFPS curriculum document and the examination guidelines for physical sciences. Our goal, to make these really important topics clear, practical, and honestly super relevant for doing well in your exams. We want you to get why this stuff matters.
Absolutely. Over the next little while, we're going to take a journey into the world of carbon molecules. It's actually fascinating stuff. We'll start with the basics, what makes a molecule organic. Then we'll look at how we name them. There's a whole system for that, a universal language, really. And maybe most importantly, we'll connect the dots. How does the way a molecule is built, its structure, affect how it behaves day to day? Understanding the why it matters part, well, it's not just about exams. It helps you see chemistry absolutely everywhere.
Okay, let's dive right in then. To really understand this, we need to start at the beginning. What are organic molecules? I used to think it just meant stuff from living things.
Yeah, that's a common idea, but it's a bit broader. At their heart, organic molecules are compounds built around carbon atoms. Carbon is pretty special. It always forms exactly 4 bonds. Always. And that simple fact lets carbon atoms link up in all sorts of ways. Long chains, chains with branches, even rings, incredible variety. It's the backbone for everything from simple plastics to, the DNA in our cells.
4 bonds.
Mm-hmm.
Seems simple, but creates so much complexity.
It really does. Now, just a small point, not every compound with carbon is organic. Things like carbon dioxide, CO2, or carbonates, like in rocks, they have carbon, but they lack that typical carbon or carbon-hydrogen framework, so they're usually classed as inorganic. Little exceptions to remember.
Right, okay, so carbon's the star.
Yeah.
But you mentioned chemists have ways to make sense of the millions of different organic molecules. You said functional groups and homologous series. How do they work?
Yes. These are like the organizers of the organic world. Think of a homologous series first. It's like a chemical family. It's a group of compounds, right? And they all share a general formula. They all have the same key feature. That's the functional group. And their physical properties change gradually as the carbon chain gets longer.
Okay, like siblings getting taller.
Exactly like that. And it's super useful if you understand one member, say methanol, you can predict a lot about the next one, ethanol, and then propanol, and so on. Saves a ton of memorization.
Makes sense. And the functional group, what's that?
The functional group is the active part of the molecule. It's a specific atom, or maybe a small group of atoms, within the molecule that really dictates its chemical personality. It tells you how it's likely to react, what kind of properties it will have. It gives the molecule its character.
Gotcha. So for someone studying for the NSC, what are the main families, the main homologous series and their functional groups they absolutely need to recognize?
Good question. Knowing these is key. Let's describe them simply. First, alkanes. These are the simplest. Only single bonds between carbons, we call them saturated, full up with hydrogens. Think methane, ethane, propane.
Okay, single bonds only, saturated.
Then alkanes. These have at least one carbon-carbon double bond somewhere. That double bond makes them unsaturated. Ethene, propene.
Double bond, unsaturated. Makes sense.
And alkenes. They go one step further, at least one carbon-carbon triple bond, also unsaturated. Ethene, propene.
Triple bond, also unsaturated. Okay.
Then you have halalkanes, basically an alkane structure, but one or more hydrogen atoms are replaced by a halogen fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, like chlorothane.
So halogen attached. Got it.
Alcohols. Their defining feature is a hydroxyl group that's an oxygen bonded to a hydrogen, an OH group attached to a saturated carbon atom, methanol, ethanol, the ones we often hear about.
The FOH group, alcohols.
Now, a pair that often get confused, aldehydes and ketones. Both contain a carbonyl group that's a carbon double bonded to an oxygen CO. The difference is location. In aldehydes, the CO is always at the very end of the carbon chain. In ketones, the CO is within the chain, sandwiched between 2 other carbon atoms.
Okay, CO at the end is aldehyde, CO in the middle is ketone.
Exactly. Then carboxylic acids. They have a carboxyl group, NaCl-COH. This is actually a carbonyl group, CO, and a hydroxyl group, NaCl-OH, attached to the same carbon atom, usually at the end of a chain too. Think ethanoic acid, that's vinegar.
So NaCl-EOH, that makes it an acid.
Precisely. And finally, esters. These are formed when a carboxylic acid reacts with an alcohol. They have a characteristic structure with a CO and an oxygen atom linking 2 carbon chains. Esters are often responsible for fruity smells like banana or pineapple flavorings. That structure gives them those specific scents.
Wow, okay, so recognizing that group, that functional group, it's like,
Yeah. It's like a cheat code. Seriously. It tells you so much about the compound's likely behavior without needing to know every single detail. It really simplifies things. It's a framework.
that's brilliant. Okay, that helps organize things.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about something else. You mentioned things looking different even with the same formula. Isomers. Use the puzzle analogy. Same number of bumps and holes, but different pieces.
That's a perfect way to put it. Isomers are compounds that have the exact same molecular formula, same count of each type of atom, but the atoms are arranged differently in space. And crucially, that difference in arrangement, that structure, leads to different physical properties, sometimes very different chemical properties too.
So even with the same ingredients, C's, H's, O's, they can act differently just based on how they're connected.
Absolutely. It's fundamental. And we classify these differences. For your NSC level, we mainly look at 3 types of structural isomers. First, chain isomers. Here, the carbon skeleton itself is arranged differently. You might have a straight chain of, say, 5 carbons, or you could have a 4-carbon chain with a 1-carbon branch sticking off it. Same number of carbons and hydrogens overall, C5H12 in this case, but different shapes, different chains.
Like rearranging the main backbone. Okay.
Second, positional isomers. In these, the main carbon chain is the same, but the position of the functional group, or a double-triple bond, is different. Imagine a 4-carbon alcohol. The OH group could be on the first carbon, butan 1-ol, or it could be on the second carbon, butan 2-ol. Same formula, same functional group, just different address on the chain.
The address changes. Got it.
And third, functional isomers. These are maybe the most distinct. The atoms rearrange to form completely different functional groups. For example, an alcohol like ethanol, C2H6O, has the same formula as an ether called dimethyl ether, also C2H6O. One's an alcohol, one's an ether. Totally different families, different properties, all because the atoms are connected in a different pattern. Same atoms, different function.
Wow. Alcohol and ether from the same atoms. So this raises the question, why is it useful for you, the student, to know about these isomers?
Well, several reasons. It explains why substances with the same formula can have different boiling points, different reactivities. It's critical in things like drug design. Sometimes only one isomer of a drug is effective, or worse, the other isomer might be harmful. So understanding structure is vital. For exams, you'll definitely be asked to identify or draw isomers.
Super important then.
Okay.
We know about the different types of molecules. We know they can have isomers.
Yeah.
But how do we talk about them specifically? You mentioned the naming system earlier. IUPAC.
Exactly. IUPAC, that's the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry. They created a standardized system for naming organic compounds. Imagine the chaos if everyone used their own names. This system means a chemist in South Africa can read a name written by someone in Japan and know exactly which molecule they mean. It's essential for clear communication. And yes, it's a big part of your NSC syllabus.
Okay, so how does it work? Is it complicated?
It has rules, but they're logical. Think of it like building a name piece by piece. Let's break down the general steps. First, identify the functional group. That tells you the family, the homologous series, and determines the ending of the name, the suffix, like M for alkanes, old for alcohols, echoic acid for carboxylic acids.
So the ending tells you the family. Step 1.
Step 2, find the longest continuous chain of carbon atoms that includes the functional group if there is one. This main chain gives you the root of the name. Meth for 1 carbon, Eth for 2, prop for 3, but for 4, pent for 5, hex for 6. You learn these prefixes.
Find the longest chain for the root name.
Step 3, number the carbons in that longest chain. This is crucial. You start numbering from the end that gives the functional group, or double-triple bond, the lowest possible number. If there are no groups or multiple bonds, you number to give any branches the lowest numbers.
Numbering for the lowest address for the important part.
Right.
Step 4, identify any branches or other atoms attached to the main chain. These are called substituents. A 1-carbon branch is methyl, 2 carbons is ethyl. Halogens become bromo, chloro, etc. If you have more than one identical branch, use prefixes like Ds for 2, tri for 3.
Name the branches and where they are.
Exactly. And finally, step 5, assemble the name. You put it all together, list the substituents alphabetically with their number positions, then the root name for the main chain, and finally the suffix for the functional group, often with its number position too. Use hyphens to separate numbers from words and commas between numbers. Okay, that sounds like a process. This is often where students get a bit tangled up.
Yeah.
Can we walk through a quick mental example? Say, an alcohol with 4 carbons, and the echo-H group is on the second carbon.
Perfect example. Let's apply the steps. Step 1, functional group. It's an alcohol, so the suffix is ol. Step 2, longest chain, 4 carbons. The root name is but. Step 3, numbering. We number from the end closer to the echo-H group, so the echo-H is on carbon number 2. Step 4, any branches? Nope, just the XOH. Step 5, a symbol. Root is but, suffix is ol, position of echo-H is 2. So we put it together as butan-2-ol.
Butan-2-ol. Okay, breaking it down like that makes it seem much more manageable. It's like a code you learn to read.
It really is. And once you practice a few, you get the hang of the logic. It's not just random rules. It describes the structure systematically. Knowing this isn't just for exams, it's the language of chemistry.
Absolutely, the universal language. Okay, let's pull this all together now. We've talked about structure, functional groups, isomers, naming. How does all of this actually affect what these molecules do? Why does the structure matter in the real world?
This is where the chemistry really comes alive. There is a direct, critical link between a molecule's structure, its size, shape, the functional groups it has, and its physical properties. Things like its boiling point, melting point, how easily it evaporates, its vapor pressure. These properties dictate how a substance behaves, whether it's a gas, liquid, or solid at room temperature, how it interacts with other substances.
And what governs those properties? What's the underlying force?
It comes down to intermolecular forces, or IMFs. These are the forces of attraction between molecules, not the bonds within them. Think of them like tiny bits of Velcro or little magnets pulling molecules toward each other. The stronger these IMFs, the more tightly the molecules hold on to each other. This means you need more energy, higher temperature to pull them apart, like when boiling a liquid into a gas. So stronger IMFs mean higher boiling points, higher melting points, and lower vapor pressure because fewer molecules can escape into the gas phase.
Okay, intermolecular forces, the stickiness between molecules. What types are important in organic chemistry?
We mainly focus on 2 types. First, van der Waals forces. These are generally weaker and are present between all molecules to some extent. They include London dispersion forces, which arise from temporary fluctuations in electron clouds. These get stronger as molecules get bigger because there are more electrons and more surface area for interaction. Van der Waals forces also include dipole forces, which occur between polar molecules with a permanent separation of charge due to differences in electronegativity, like in haloalkanes.
So size matters for van der Waals and polarity matters. What's the other type?
The other major one, and it's significantly stronger, is hydrogen bonding. This is a special, extra strong type of dipole force. It happens specifically when hydrogen is bonded directly to a very electronegative atom, mainly oxygen, nitrogen, or fluorine. So molecules like alcohols with OH and carboxylic acids with NaCOH can form hydrogen bonds with each other. Water is the classic example, of course.
Hydrogen bonds, this super strong IMF. Okay, so how do specific structural features tie into these forces?
Great question. Let's connect it back. Chain length. Think about simple alkanes. As the carbon chain gets longer, the molecule gets bigger, more surface area, so the London dispersion forces become stronger. Longer chain equals stronger VDW forces equals higher boiling point. That's why octane is a liquid while methane is a gas. Functional group, this is huge. If a molecule has a polar group like CuO, it has dipole forces. If it has an HOH or an HEOH group, it can form hydrogen bonds. These are much stronger than London forces alone. That's why ethanol, with hydrogen bonding, boils way higher than ethane, only London forces, even though they're similar in size. Branching. Now, this is interesting. Take 2 isomers with the same formula. If one is a straight chain and the other is branched, the branch molecule is more compact, more spherical. It can't pack as closely to its neighbor.
So less surface contact.
Exactly. Less surface contact means weaker London dispersion forces between the molecules. So more branching usually leads to a lower boiling point compared to the straight chain isomer.
That's fascinating. So a more tangled, branched shape actually makes it easier to boil off because the molecules aren't sticking together as well. It's all about those invisible forces.
Precisely. And understanding these structure-property relationships is incredibly powerful. Chemists use this knowledge constantly. It helps predict how a new drug molecule might behave in the body, how stable a plastic will be, or even why certain fuels work better at different temperatures. Think about the alcohol breathalyzer. It relies on the fact that alcohol evaporates easily, its volatility, which is directly related to its structure and IMFs.
Wow. It connects all the way from basic structure to real-world tech and applications. Okay, so that was our simple science summary, hitting the core ideas of organic chemistry for the NSC. We looked at what organic molecules are based on carbon, We explored homologous series and those key functional groups. We untangled the idea of isomers, same formula, different structure. We learned the logical rules of IUPAC naming. And crucially, we connected structure to real-world properties through intermolecular forces.
And the key takeaway for you, listening and studying, is that grasping these fundamentals isn't just about passing the exam, though it will definitely help with that. It's about building a framework, a way of thinking that lets you understand the chemistry that shapes, well, everything. Food, fuels, medicines, materials, it's all built on these principles.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. The next time you see a chemical name or a formula, maybe on a food label or a cleaning product, pause for a second. Think about the story it tells. How are those atoms arranged? And how might that specific arrangement dictate whether it's a liquid or gas, how it smells, or what it actually does? What other everyday substances can you think of where tiny differences in molecular structure lead to big differences in function? Keep thinking, keep exploring. Thanks so much for joining us for this simple science summary. Until next time, keep that curiosity alive.